This morning's practice is focus on functional range conditioning. So what's that's meaning is really focusing on our joints and improving movements within the joints. Or also a spiritual theme of freedom. So within our physical body, making room for freedom of our joints to move freely, but also our muscles and the fascia. So we want our fascia to glide nicely over the muscles, our muscles to be free of knots and tension, and our joints to have good range of motion. So think having all that in mind as you're moving through and flowing through your movement. We'll start off in a seated position and then we'll move on to our back. But let's just do a few breaths in a seated position. So your spine is upright. Let's take our hands at our side and take a nice big inhale as our arms come up and an exhale as our hands go back to the side. Inhaling up, exhaling to the side. Let's do that a few more times, but move at a pace that goes best for your breath. Inhaling, really filling up your body with oxygen. On your exhales, really focus on releasing and grounding. A couple more of those. Maybe soften your gaze or close your eyes if that feels appropriate. Feeling the breath coming in and going out of your body. And then just relax your hands wherever they feel comfortable. And again, with a soft gaze or closed eyes, just continue noticing your breath, noticing the inhales and the breath coming into the body, noticing the exhales and how it's leaving your body, noticing where you feel the air coming in as it enters your nostrils, into your lungs, and into your body. And on your exhales, just noticing how it feels to be leaving your body and out of your nose. And then start to bring awareness to the space in between each breath, that pause between the inhale before the exhale, and after the exhale before you take your next breath in. That pause in between. And then imagine your breath in tune with the cycle of Earth. Like the sun rising in the morning, the breath is coming in. And like the sun setting in the evening, the breath is going out. Or like the cycle of the moon, as the new moon enters and the breath comes in, there's that fresh newness. And as we exhale, it's like the full moon as an ending. Something ends, the pause in between, and then that fresh new beginning of the next breath. And then slowly flutter open your eyes. We're going to make our way down on our backs to start our practice. So I suggest not having a pillow under your head and having a bit of space around you. So make your way onto your back. So we'll start with our feet on the ground and our knees bent and our hands relaxed at our side. Actually, sorry, no, I'm changing my mind. Let's extend both legs out. We did this last week and I really enjoyed this breathing exercise. So let's do it again. So start with your legs out, But if it's too much for your low back, by all means, you could bend one leg at a time. Extending your arms up above your head, take a nice big inhale in as you stretch out. And on your exhale, bend your left knee into your chest. Give it a hug. Inhale, lengthen your body out. And exhale, right knee in. Give it a hug. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, pulling in. Inhale, lengthen. Feel your feet get long, your arms get long. And exhale, fully release that, all the air out of your body. Let's do that one more time, each side. Big inhale. Exhale, release. Inhale. Exhale. And then lower that right foot down to the ground, bend your left knee, and bring your left knee in. Let's wake up our pelvic. So I'm going to sit up just so I can show you, placing the tips of your finger on the eyes of your pelvic bone, so your hip bones, and then your thumbs on your lower ribs. And then bringing both together, your hip bones and your ribs down together, and then sending them apart. And then bringing them together, and then sending them apart. So we're getting this little gentle rocking sensation for our pelvis. So we're just getting some mobility going in our pelvic floor. So just continue that. Again, if once you have it, you can release your hands down once you have that in your body. But you just have this nice, gentle little rocking sensation of your pelvis going back and forth. Couple more here. And release. Now let's move our way up and go to our spine, and let's take our elbows out front, clasping our hands around, near our elbows, and then send your elbows to the left and then to the right. So just starting with the arm movement, and then add your head. Let your head go the opposite direction of your arms. Still continuing to breathe, so finding a nice flowing breath. And then let your knees follow with your head. So your knees and your arms are going opposite direction. Getting a nice gentle twist of the spine. Relaxing your jaw. Couple more here. And then come back to neutral. Take your hands and lift up your head. Place your hands behind your head, right at the base of your skull, with your elbows up to the ceiling, lifting your head, and then just tilt your head side to side. Just releasing some tension in the neck, getting some mobility going there. Come back to center and relax your head down. Good. So let's do a little bit more for our hips and our shoulders to warm things up. So thinking of your left knee, pull your left knee up a little bit and start to make small circles with that left knee. So as if you're drawing a circle on the ceiling. So now what I want you to think about, and maybe you want to put your hands back on the eye of your pelvic, of your hips, eye of your hips, because we want our pelvis to stay neutral and we want this motion to come from our hips. Now, maybe you could start to make those circles a little bit bigger, pulling the knee in, opening up that knee out to the side, kind of pushing that foot away, maybe lengthening it out a little bit and then pulling in. If it's okay for your low back to make big circles. If not, you're just staying in these little circles. Pause and start to go the opposite direction. So again, if you get a lot of movement happening in your pelvis, make your circles a little bit smaller and really think of the hip joint. And lower that down. Good. Let's just take a little windshield wipers of the knee side to side and come back to center. We'll do that for our right leg. So pulling that right knee in a little bit and then just start to make really small little circles, keeping the pelvis neutral. Maybe you could start to make the circles bigger, bringing the knee in, opening that knee out to the side, pushing that foot away, and then pulling it straight back in. Getting the motion to be coming directly from that hip joint. Pause when appropriate, go the opposite way a few times. So watching that that left side isn't coming up as we build strength in the hip here. And then lower that down. And once again, just windshield wiper your knees side to side. Good. Let's come on to one side. So I'm starting on my left side. If you wanna, yeah, I think I will. No, 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 I don't. Sorry, I forgot what we were doing for a moment. And no, we won't want anything under our head. So as long as that feels okay, but you could always, sorry, no, I'm lying again. The arm that's underneath, I want it to be straight out. So hopefully your head feels okay lower down. But if it's not okay, absolutely put a pillow. I want you to not have any strain in your neck. Okay, so now this upper hand, which is my right hand, is coming over top of my left hand. Reach it out as then that hand comes up and open up to a book. So your knees are out to the side. That knee might lift up, and that's perfectly okay as that arm comes down and your right shoulder comes down to the mat. And then close that book. So you're flowing that hand down to find that other hand again. Now lengthen and reach that upper hand as it comes up above the head this time, and then opens up and finds the ground. So you have this little twist here, and then once again, it's coming up above your head and back to where you began. So let's do that one more time each way. So first is going to open up. So lengthen first and keep lengthening as you open into your twist. Pause for a breath and then close. And just notice how you're feeling in your shoulders as you do these moves. And then lengthen as you come up and around. So we're getting an internal and external rotation of that right shoulder that's moving. And then close it. Good. And then roll yourself over to the other side. I'm flipping around just so I can stay facing you. So get yourself settled. And this time my right arm is on the ground, left arm over top. Lengthen out that top arm as you open. And again, your legs are out to the side. And then close. Lengthen as you come up above your head to open and up above the head to close. One more time each side. Lengthen that hand out first. Continue to lengthen that reach as you open. And just pause for a breath, enjoying this nice chest opener. And then close. Getting a nice flowing movement here. Lengthen as you come up above your head. Pause for a breath. And then one last time, come to close. Beautiful. That left hand that's out front, or whichever hand is out front for you, putting it out front of your face so you can bring yourself up to a seated position. And we're going to make our way onto our hands and knees. So get yourself settled on hands and knees. Beautiful. And once you're settled in here, we're going to make some circles here. So we're going to the front, left, back, right, front, left, back, Right. Then maybe you can make the circles a little bit bigger. Coming forward, side, back. Maybe you can come into almost a child's pose and almost a bit of a plank, but staying on your knees. So again, these are all just different options. Feel free to keep it small or make your range of motion really big. Pause when appropriate, and let's go the opposite way a few times. And just check in with your jaw if you're holding tension or your shoulders and any other areas you know you typically hold your tension. Releasing as you go. And then bring yourself to center. Good. So from here, let's do a little bit more of that hip motion. Just do a few like we were on our back and see how it feels from doing it from this stance. So putting your weight a little bit more into your right knee, try to keep your pelvis neutral again. Lift that left knee off the ground and start with really small little circles, getting that movement to come from the hip. Maybe you could start to make your circles bigger. So what we're trying not to really lean over to the side as we do our hip circles. If you find you're really leaning over, make your circles a little smaller. Again, we want the hip joint to be doing the work. Pause and go the opposite direction a couple of times. And then lower that left knee down. Do whatever little wiggles or anything that you need to work out. Good. A little more weight into the left knee, lifting that right, trying to keep the pelvis neutral and start to make little circles. So yes, your pelvis is going to move a little bit. We just don't want it to be a big move. And maybe you can make your circles a little bigger. Pause, go the opposite direction a few times. And start to lower that back down. Good. Let's just do a little tail wag here. So looking towards one hip and then look towards the other hip. So it's like you're trying to draw one shoulder towards the same hip and then the other shoulder towards that side of the hip. And just going side to side, flowing through your spine. And pause here. Let's do a couple cat-cow and then we'll bring yourself up. So starting with the tailbone, tuck that tailbone and then push that ground away. Head goes down last. Leading with the tailbone again, so that pelvic bowl starts to unravel, chest goes down, head comes up. So I want you to think that you're moving up your spine vertebrae by vertebrae as you're moving into cat, and then vertebrae by vertebrae as you gently go into cow. Let's do one more time each. Really think about your spine, the space between each vertebrae, like we were noticing the space between each breath, making space between those vertebrae. And let's just come into child's pose for a moment. So take your knees nice and wide, feet might be together. If you need to put a pillow underneath or in between your bottom and your heels, by all means, and just pause for a couple of breaths in child's pose, and just check in. How are you feeling? Just enjoy that lengthening of the spine here. Bringing your hands to either side of your face as you gently, slowly bring yourself back to all fours. We're going to transition into dog pose to bring yourself up. So tuck your toes, lift your tailbone up towards the sky, heels towards the ground, and then one heel goes down, other heel up, and then switch. So you're pedaling out your dog. Doing a couple rounds of that. And then we're going to make our way into our forward fold. So we're generously bent with bent knees, walking our feet towards our hands, and then find your favorite forward fold. You might have your elbows on your knees really bent. You could also have a block, placing your hands on a block, or you could also just enjoy a dangling Just take a couple breaths in your forward fold. Now, really root into your heels, and we're going to roll ourselves up. So, tuck your chin in as you roll up, vertebrae by vertebrae, pushing that earth away from you as you come up. As you come up, open up your shoulders, squeeze as if you're squeezing a pencil with your shoulder blades. Slightly look up just a little bit, palms facing away from your body, and then tuck your chin. Palms start to face the back wall, and ever so slowly start to roll back down into your forward fold. And we're going to flow through that a couple more times. So slowly start to roll up, push into your heels, push that ground away as you bring yourself up. Open up your chest, squeeze that pencil. Give a nice big inhale here. Exhale, tuck your chin and start to roll forward. Let's do that again. Inhaling as you roll up. At the top of the inhale, open up your chest. Exhaling, roll forward. One more time, bringing yourself up. Inhaling, lifting yourself up. Take a big sip in as you open your chest. And exhale, just bring yourself into mountain pose and pause here. Once again, just pause in your mountain pose and check in with how you're feeling. Excellent. So I'm going to face you. You could stay where you were. Let's do like we were at the beginning with that breathing exercise, and we're going to challenge our balance a little bit here too. So actually, sorry, before we do that, let's do a little bit of ankle work before we go into our balancing. So start to, in your mountain pose, start to come on your toes, forward on your toes a little bit, and then back towards your heels. So we're just ever so slightly coming forward. We're challenging our balance here. Sometimes I like to place my hand on my chest. I don't, and one hand on my belly. That can help me find my center a little bit better. Once you have that in, stay there if you like, or increase it to lifting your heels, coming up on your toes, and then lower back down, and then lift your toes, coming, ooh, I lost my balance. And then just go back and forth. So coming up on your toes. So find that spot that you can stare at. So that dristy point to help with your balance. And find your breath. Allow your breath to be there as your anchor. Do one more on your toes, and one more on lifting your toes. And then find neutral ground again. And just once again, after doing that, pause, connecting all four corners of your feet, feeling sturdy in your mountain pose. Yeah. Now let's just roll out our ankles. So lifting one heel and just make some circles with your ankles, one direction and the other. And then for the other side, same thing, lift the heels and just make some circles there. Get into our knee joints a little bit, bringing your toe mounts together a little, your feet a little bit closer, bending generously at your knees so you can place your hands roughly around your knees and just make some small little circles here. Start off small, making sure you're feeling okay in your knees. You might get lots of crickety cracks going on. Pause and then the opposite direction. And then bring yourself up and bring your feet hip distance apart. Good, wiggle that out. All right, so there, we warmed up our ankles a little bit for some balancing here. So like we did on the ground, we are going to inhale, lengthen, feel fully lengthened, and then exhale, lift your right leg up, giving it a little pull. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, lift your left knee in towards your body. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, lift. So again, you're finding that spot to stare at, that dristy point to help you focus and help you with your balance. Whichever foot stays on the ground, imagine those four corners of the foot rooted into the earth, grounding you, keeping you solid and safe. Good. And trusting yourself. Let's do one more each side. Big inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fully releasing that breath. Ooh. And come back to center. Wiggle that out. Beautiful. Let's take our feet a little bit wider, our toes slightly angled out a bit. And once again, I always like to do that little tick tock for the hips. It's working out and allowing our hips to kind of find a good, relaxed spot to rest. Great. So now let's inhale our hands up towards the ceiling and exhale, squatting into like a horse stance. So our knees are coming at the same time we're making a goalpost with our hands, with our arms, sorry. Inhale, lengthen up, straighten everything. Exhale, squat down. And I want you to think a nice neutral position. So again, we're not really extending or contract, like we've got a nice neutral position of our pelvis as we're going down. So inhaling up and exhaling into your horse stance and goalpost arms. Let's do one more here. The next time you are in your squat, just pause and hold that, and then take your hands behind your head, holding this horse stance, and then take one elbow towards one knee. It likely won't touch, and that's okay. And then the opposite elbow towards that knee. And then just going side to side, getting a nice stretch through your obliques. So engage your core, navel to spine, and breathing, finding your breath. Let's do one more each side. And then straighten your legs and relax your hands down by your side. Just wiggle that out again for your hips. Excellent. Good. So with still nice wide hips and a slight little bend in your knees, inhaling your hands up like you're making this, like you're hugging something or you're making this loop. And again, getting a nice neutral pelvis there, feeling strong core engagement, navel to spine. And then we're going to start to make a circle. So you might make a small circle. I'll start with a small circle where you're going towards one side and then to the other. You might stay here if this feels like enough for you, or maybe you want to come all the way down into a wide-legged forward fold and come up. And circling down and around. Do one more this direction, down and around. And then pause and then start going the opposite direction, whichever size of circles you're making. Really root all four corners of both feet into the mat, but not gripping with your toes. Ending as you come up and exhale your hands down. And one more time, give your hips a nice gentle wiggle. Good. Let's come into warrior pose. So I'll mirror you. So right toes facing the top of the mat and then angle out your back feet towards about a 45-degree angle. Excellent. So just get yourself settled in. That right knee is bent. Again, that nice little neutral stance of your pelvis, navel towards spine for that core engagement. Good. Feeling nice and strong in your warrior two legs. Once you've got that settled, inhale your arms up for full warrior two. Looking out past your right fingertips and just pause for breath here. Now we're going to bring right arm up above, left arm underneath our belly, and then switch. Uh, so we've got like this, feel like a bit of a ballerina, nice, flowy, and breezy. So we're feeling really solid and grounded in our lower body. Think that right foot is pushing into the earth. Feel that fire up that right leg, but your upper body is flowing. So you're grounded, but free at the same time. And your arms back into that warrior two stance, looking out past your right fingertips. Now this time, taking that right hand on the inside of that right leg, keep that right leg bent, straighten the left arm up, and then slide that right hand down towards the earth. Maybe it comes to a block. You could be up here, that's perfectly fine as well. Maybe you could reach the ground. Just be wherever feels good for you, enjoying a nice stretch through this side of your body, the left side. Now, as you lift up, like rope is pulling you up, straighten that right leg, and then rest your upper hand on your back leg, lifting that right arm up and slightly hinging back a little bit. And then bring yourself back to neutral and adjust your feet to come back into that wide-legged stance and just wiggle your hips out a bit. Good, and we'll do that on the other side. So left toes point up towards the top of the mat, angle out your back foot, bend that left knee, make any adjustments, really root that foot into the ground and a nice neutral stance of your pelvis. Once your low body feels strong and secure, inhale your arms up to warrior two, looking out past your left fingertips. Just pause for a breath here. And then we'll do those arm rotations again. So right arm above, left hand underneath the belly, and then switch. And again, feeling secure in your low body, really root that left foot into the earth. Let your upper body flow. Relaxing your jaw. Do one more each side here. And then come back to your warrior two. Pause for a breath. Keep that left leg straight. Really continue to root that foot into the ground, bringing that left arm in the inside, opposite arm up above as you hinge down to wherever feels appropriate for you. Getting an enjoyable stretch here. As you lift up, straighten that front leg, and then let that upper arm come rest on your back leg. Opposite arm comes up, looking forward or looking up towards that hand, if that's okay for your neck. Ever so slightly hinging back. And then unwind. And once again, just wiggle your feet back together to about hip distance apart. Lovely. So release that out. All right, so let's do just a few little soothing breaths here, and then we're going to bring ourselves back down onto the ground. So from here, oh, I know, yes, okay. Sorry, my brain was catching up. So having feet hip distance apart, you have this softness in your legs. You're going to start to take your hands at your side and lifting them up and then floating them down. You're kind of coming into a gentle little squat too. So inhaling up, exhaling down. So it's like you have these wings, feeling free as you move, feeling the air between your fingertips as you move. Now staying here or adding in that balance if it feels okay, lifting that right knee up and then lowering it back down. Then lifting that left knee up. You could also just lift your heel, not bringing the full knee forward is another option. So going back and forth, feeling like a crane, and get into the flow. Watch that you're not gripping in with your toes. Watch that you have a relaxed shoulder and jaw, and make sure you're continuing to breathe. As long as you've balanced off and you're evened off on each side, keeping both feet on the ground and then just ending with these wings moving. And then start to lower, make the wings movement a little bit smaller, little bit smaller, until they relax down to your side. Beautiful. We're going to make our way down. So let's face the front of your mat, and let's do what we were doing before with the rolling up and down before we go back down. So on your next inhale, open up your chest, palms face forward, squeeze that pencil, look up a little bit. And then exhale, tuck your chin, start to roll yourself forward again. Inhale, rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae. Dip at the top as you fully breathe into your chest, and exhale, rolling forward. Let's do that one more time. Inhale, pushing that ground away, lifting up. Exhale, forward fold. And this time we're going to hold our forward fold. So once again, come into your favorite forward fold, whether using block or maybe you like to hold onto your elbows or your elbows aren't resting on your knees. Wherever you are, dangle your head, nodding your head yes and no. Release tension from your neck. Let gravity pull the crown of your head towards the earth. Think of your heels rooting into the mat, getting a nice lengthening stretch through the backs of your legs, all the way from the backs of your heels, through your calves, through the backs of your thighs, and into your glutes. On your next exhale, can you release into that forward fold just a little bit more? And then start to bend your knees generously as you make your way back to your hands and knees. And then take your favorite forward fold. So for me, I like to do a nice wide-legged. I take my knees wide, feet together, but your knees might be close together. Be where feels best for you, using whatever props. Maybe you even want to rest your head, your forehead on the back of your hands. And you could nod your head side to side, massaging your third eye if that feels nice. Just take a couple soothing breaths here. And then slowly bringing yourself back up. We're going to come into hero's pose just for a little bit. I'm going to use a block. You could also use a cushion to sit on. So I'm just putting that block underneath me to raise my pelvis up to be a little more gentle on the knees. But if your knees don't like this, then you could just go into a regular seated position if that feels better. Or you could be standing, whichever feels best for you. We're just going to give a little bit of stretching for our neck and our shoulders here. Once you're settled in, taking your hands out to the side, palms away from you, getting a nice stretch through your wrists. So think of the base of your palms are pushing out. Feel that lengthening. Fingertips towards the sky. And then take one ear towards one shoulder and then gently let your head go back and forth. And then next time your head is forward, chin towards the chest, and go drop your ear towards the other side and gently go back and forth. Chin to chest, lower your hands down and lift your head up. And just give some circles for our wrist, one direction and the other. And then tuck your elbows in to your body. I'm going to come a little closer. Palms down, finger towards the front. Really root your elbows in so your arms are resting right and hugging up right against your body. Now, keeping your forearms solid, have your fingertips going towards away from each other, and then they're coming inward towards each other. So this action is coming right from the wrist. So the wrist is making the hands move, opening and closing. So the forearms, we're trying our best to keep still and having this movement, this functional range conditioning that we're working on today, having that movement come just from our wrists. Ooh, and release that out, keeping your elbows where they are. Now your palms are up. Tuck your thumbs in and then wrap your fingers around your thumbs and then bring your fists inward towards your body. So now we want to get a nice stretch through the outside of our thumbs. Breathe into that a little bit, getting a nice stretch there. And then open up your hands. Just give a nice stretch for your fingers and release that out. Beautiful. We're going to bring our weight onto our bottom. So you might want to just set that to the side. Have your strap or whatever you're using close by and extending our legs out. So moving the flesh from underneath you to get really rooted into your sit bones. Your legs are out. If at any time this feels too much, you could always put a blocker pillow under your knees. We're going to come into a forward fold. So your low back will tell you if it needs something underneath. Okay, so once you're settled in there, nice open chest, hinging at your hips as you come forward. So we're keeping our spine straight right now. So we've got a nice straight spine up to the crown of the head. I like to keep my feet flexed for this first part. And then exhale, rounding your back. Relax your feet now. And then come into your forward fold. By all means, if you prefer to use a strap, you most certainly can. Or your hands could be at your side, or maybe your arms are long enough to reach your feet. So just be where it feels best for you. And we're coming into our static stretch portion. So we did a lot of dynamic stretching. And now we're just going to cool things down and enjoy some static stretch. Take another couple of breaths. So for those of you that do yin with me, we aren't holding near as long, so you can go deeper into these stretches to get into the muscles more. It's bringing yourself up, because with yin, we don't want to get into the muscles, but at this point in time, we do want to get into the muscles, so you can go deeper into these stretches. Hope that makes sense. Let's take a wide-legged stance just for a moment. Torso over one side of your leg. So if you're mirroring me, your left leg, walking your hands down, and then enjoy a nice forward fold, getting an inner thigh stretch, while at the same time getting into the back part of your body. With your next couple of breaths, maybe you can go just a little bit deeper, bringing yourself up, and then torso over to the other side, and then walk your way down. And again, feel free to use a strap here if you like. And again, for your next couple of breaths, maybe you can deepen that stretch, trying to keep the opposite sits bone on the mat though. And gently lifting yourself up. Great. Taking yourself back to where we were. And again, having that strap nearby, we're going to make our way onto our back once again, feet on the ground, knees are bent to start. Take that strap and wrap it around your right bottom of your foot. And so just watch it. You don't have a big death grip on your strap. So right now we're not coming into our hamstring stretch. So we just want it up straight in the sky, a nice neutral stance for that leg. That left knee could be bent or straight, but if you straighten it and your low back pinches, then just bend that again. Okay. Once you're settled in here, let your toes lead. So your toes are going to go over towards the left and then back to center, and your toes are going to go over to the right. So think of your hip joint. This is for our hips. So we're getting an internal rotation and an external rotation here. So let that foot lead. So that's why we're not pulling that foot leg in just yet. We will get into a hamstring. Right now, we're just doing one more for our hips, going in and out. Think of that hip joint, that hip socket moving. And come back to neutral. And now we're going to start to pull that foot in closer to our body. Maybe you shorten this grip a little higher on that strap, because now we want to get into the hamstring and the calf, the whole back of the leg. And breathe into the back of that leg. And just check in that you're not gripping your jaw or your shoulders are relaxed. Take a couple more breaths here. Maybe you could pull it closer to you just a tiny bit more. And then release that out a bit. Let your left hand hold on to both sides of the strap, and then let that right leg open out to the right. By all means, feel free to use a block if you need to put that underneath your right hip or right thigh to prevent it from going too far down, because gravity is going to pull it open. And so the idea here is that we want a nice inner thigh stretch. Final couple breaths here. And you can generously bend that knee as you start to release that strap. Lengthen that right leg out and just pause with both legs straight and just notice, how does one side feel compared to the other? Beautiful. So let's even ourselves out. So I always like to suggest start with both knees bent and then straighten the opposite one if it's okay for your low back. But I always like to err on that side of caution first. So strap around that left foot with a just neutral stance, so we're not pulling it in. And let the toes lead. So sending the toes over to the right, and then send the toes over towards the left. Relax your shoulders, relax the gripping on your hold, and bring your awareness to that left hip socket. Getting the movement to come from there. The leg is just along for the ride. And then come back to neutral. And now we'll go into the back of the leg, pulling that leg in towards your body. And breathe into the back of your leg. Let your breath be like warm oil, working through the muscles. For your next couple of breaths, maybe pulling it just a little bit deeper. lengthening and deepening that stretch into the muscles. Relax that pull. Hold with your right hand, both sides, and then let that leg open to the left. And again, feel free to use block or pillow if you need something to prevent gravity from going too far. If your right knee is bent, it could still be bent, and it might even start to open up a little bit and getting a double whammy there. So do what's best for your body. For your next couple of breaths, trying to keep your right side of your low back connected to the ground. So if it starts to lift up, I would just ease out of that a little bit more, trying to keep your low back, or sorry, your back, your pelvis on the ground. Beautiful. Bend that left knee generously so you can release that strap, setting that off to the side. Bend both knees with feet on the ground, windshield wiper. And then pulling both knees towards your chest, clasping either behind your knees or on top of your shins, giving yourself a well-deserved hug. Stay in stillness, or maybe you want to rock side to side, massaging your low back. Maybe hugging your knees in just a little bit more, getting a nice stretch for your low back. Release the hold, but keep your knees bent, sending, let your knees open up a bit, feet up to the sky, nice flexed feet. We're going to come into happy baby. So bend your knees generously as if they're trying to bring them towards your shoulders. And you could either bring your hands behind the backs of your knees or in the outsides of your ankles, or if you can reach the outside of your feet. Depends how long your arms are and how open your hips are as well. So once you find where's best for you, once again, finding stillness, you could always use the strap as well. The strap is always another option for you. And once you're there, you could stay in stillness, or maybe you want to rock your baby. Take a few soothing breaths, soften into this. To come out of it, I always like to bend one foot inward and then the other. I do this playful little movement. So if that feels nice for you, a little playful movement, if that feels good. And then start to ease out of it. Let's send our feet up to the sky just for a moment. Hands out to the side in a T position. Let's circle our ankles a few times, or be in stillness if you prefer. And then when you're ready, one foot at a time, lowering one foot down and then the other. And then make your way into your final resting pose. So if you want to use a pillow under your head, a blanket over your body, or a pillow under your knees, perhaps, so you can straighten your legs out. Finding a nice place for your hands to rest, just at your side, palms down for grounding, palms up for receiving, or whichever feels best on your shoulders. Or maybe your hands on your belly or chest. Taking some soothing breaths here. Inhale, feel the light, the front of your body feel nice and light. And on your exhale, feeling the back of your body root into your mat. Inhaling the lightness. Exhaling the heaviness and the grounded feeling. Then on your next breath, imagine the breath coming in through the crown of your head and waking that breath down all the way through your body, down through your toes. On your next inhale, do that again like a wave is going through you, in through the crown of your head, through all parts of your body and out your toes. Do that one more time, just washing your body of any last bit of tension, sending that breath through, and then just finding a nice, relaxing, neutral breath. And with each exhale, I want you to start to count backwards, bringing the number 10 into your mind. And on your next exhale, say 10. Inhale and exhale 9. Inhale and exhale 8. Continuing to count backwards on each exhale. With each exhale, you're feeling more and more relaxed. Each exhale, dropping you into this present moment until you reach 0. Your whole body feeling completely relaxed. I'm going to leave you for a moment of silence here as you absorb all the good things you just did, and then I will bring you back out of it. Start to bring awareness back to your breath again, and allow your inhales to wake yourself back up. Noticing those inhales, reviving your body, and start to invite in some gentle movement, wiggling fingers and toes, arms and legs, nodding your head side to side, bending your knees, feet on the ground, bringing yourself to your favorite side, and then just pause there in fetal position for a couple of breaths, signaling to your body that it's time to wake back up. And then when you're ready, bringing yourself back up to a seated position as we come full circle on our mat. And let's take a couple breaths again, like we did at the beginning, hands at our side, inhaling our hands up, and this time pulling that energy into our body. Let's do that one more time. Inhaling our hands up to prayer position, pulling your prayer hands into your heart, rounding forward to bow to yourself, thanking yourself for showing up this morning. Namaste. Thank you for sharing your practice with me. You're welcome to stay and chat, or you're welcome just to continue on with your day.